Captain Veltar felt the ship shake beneath her feet. The vibrations ran through the metal deck plates of the Times Zenith's Pride Times like a warning. She gripped the sides of her command chair and watched the main screen with growing worry. "Report," she called to her bridge crew. Her voice stayed calm, but inside she felt fear starting to build. The ship's science officer, a tall blue-skinned Altarian named Kesseth, looked up from his console. His face was pale. "Captain, we are caught in some kind of gravity trap. The readings don't make sense." Veltar stood up from her chair. She had been a starship captain for 20 years. She had seen meteor storms, solar flares, and pirate attacks. But this was different. This felt wrong in a way that made her stomach twist. "Show me the sensor data," she said. The main screen changed to show a map of space around their ship. Red lines moved across the display like snakes. Each line showed a gravity field. And they were everywhere. The fields twisted and turned around the Times Zenith's Pride asterisk, creating a maze with no way out. "How did we get caught?" Veltar asked. Kesseth shook his head. "We were doing a normal scan of the star system. Everything looked safe. Then these gravity fields just appeared around us. It's like they were waiting for us." The ship shook again, harder this time. Veltar heard metal groaning somewhere deep in the hull. The gravity fields were not just trapping them. They were slowly crushing the ship. "Communications," Veltar called to Zix, the small green-scaled officer at the comm station. "Send out a distress call. All frequencies. Let everyone know we need help." Zix's clawed fingers moved quickly over her controls. "Distress call sent, Captain. Broadcasting on all known emergency channels." Veltar looked around the bridge at her mixed crew. The Times Zenith's Pride Times carried beings from 12 different worlds. Scientists, engineers, doctors, and explorers. All of them far from home, all of them counting on her to keep them safe. The chief engineer, a crystal-bodied being named Orthan, spoke through the ship's comm system. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Captain, I need to speak with you about our engines." "Go ahead, Orthan. The gravity fields are affecting our power systems. Every time we try to increase thrust, the fields get stronger. It's like the trap is designed to stop any ship that tries to escape." Veltar closed her eyes for a moment. 847 beings on this ship. Researchers, families, children. All depending on her to find a way out of this nightmare. "Can you boost the shields?" she asked. "I'm trying, Captain. But the fields are not hitting us with force. They're bending space itself around us. Our shields were not made for this kind of attack." Another shake ran through the ship. This time, Veltar heard something snap in the walls. A small crack appeared in one of the bridge panels. "Zix, any response to our distress call?" The communications officer looked up with sad eyes. "Yes, Captain. I've received messages from 4 different governments and 6 merchant fleets." "Good. When will they arrive?" Zix's scales turned a darker shade of green. "They're not coming, Captain. They all say the same thing. The gravity fields make it impossible to get close to us. Any ship that tries will be caught in the same trap." The words hit Veltar like a cold wave. No rescue was coming. They were alone. "Keep trying," she told Zix. "Maybe someone has different technology. Something that can handle these fields." Quote, "Over the next few hours, the situation got worse. The gravity fields seemed to learn from every attempt the crew made to escape. When Orthan tried to overload the engines, the fields grew stronger. When the weapons officer fired at the source of the nearest field, the energy was bent back at their own ship." Veltar walked through the ship's corridors. She saw fear in the faces of her crew, but also determination. The Vrathan scientists worked on mathematical solutions. The Kashari warriors sharpened their ceremonial blades, preparing for an honorable death. The Solani empaths tried to keep everyone calm with their mental abilities. In the ship's main lab, she found Dr. Yithka, an elderly crystalline researcher. He was studying old records on his computer screen. "Doctor, have you found anything that might help us?" Dr. Yithka's crystal body glowed with soft blue light. "Perhaps, Captain. I have been reading about the race that built these gravity traps. They called them the Void Builders. What do we know about them? Very little. They died out millions of years ago. But the few records we have say they were different. They thought in ways that other species could not understand. Their technology worked on principles that seemed impossible. Veltar studied the ancient text on the screen. Most of it was in languages so old that even the ship's computer could only guess at the meanings. Is there anything useful here? One thing, Captain. The records mention that only beings touched by madnesses could navigate the Void Builder creations. I think it means that normal logical thinking cannot solve these puzzles. Before Veltar could answer, the ship's alarm system began to scream. She ran back to the bridge with Dr. Yithka following behind her. "Report!" she called as she reached her command chair. Kessis looked up from his sensors, his blue skin even paler than before. "Captain, hull breach on Deck 7. The gravity fields are getting stronger. I estimate we have maybe 3 days before the ship breaks apart completely." Veltar sat down heavily in her chair. 3 days. Not enough time for any normal rescue to reach them, even if someone was willing to try. She looked at the main screen showing the deadly maze of gravity fields around them. Somewhere in the distance, she could see the faint lights of other star systems. So close, but they might as well have been in another galaxy. "Keep monitoring the communications," she told Zix. "Maybe someone out there has a ship crazy enough to try reaching us." But even as she said it, Veltar didn't really believe it would happen. The gravity trap was too strong, too smart, too alien. No rescue was coming. 2 days had passed since the times Zenith's pride times became trapped. Captain Veltar stood in the ship's observation deck, watching space through the thick windows. The gravity fields were invisible, but she could see their effects. Stars bent and twisted in the distance, their light pulled into strange shapes. Behind her, she heard quiet conversations in a dozen different languages. Crew members from different worlds tried to comfort each other. Some prayed to gods she had never heard of. Others worked on problems that had no solutions. The ship groaned around them. Every few minutes, another small part of the hull would crack under the pressure of the gravity fields. The engineering teams worked without rest, welding patches and reinforcing weak spots. But everyone knew they were just buying time. "Captain," a voice called behind her. Veltar turned to see Orthan, the crystal engineer. His usually bright body looked dull and cracked. The stress was affecting him badly. "What is it, Orthan?" "I have been thinking about our engines. There might be one more option." Veltar felt a small spark of hope. "Tell me." "I could overload the warp core, create a massive energy pulse. Maybe it would be strong enough to break through the gravity fields." The hope died as quickly as it had come. What would happen to the ship? Orthan's crystal body dimmed even more. The ship would be destroyed, but the pulse might create an opening for a few seconds, long enough to send a message pod with our research data. Veltar shook her head. "We're not giving up yet. Keep looking for other options." She left Orthan and walked deeper into the ship. In the medical bay, she found Dr. Solomי treating crew members for stress injuries. The Solani doctor looked exhausted. Her empathic abilities meant she felt everyone's fear and despair. "How are they doing, doctor?" Dr. Solomí looked up with tired eyes. "The Vrathan are handling it best. They see this as an interesting mathematical problem. The Keshari are preparing death songs. The crystallines are sharing their life memories with each other. And the others? Scared. But holding together. Your leadership is keeping them focused." Veltar didn't feel like a good leader. She felt lost and helpless. But she couldn't let the crew see that. In the ship's main lab, the science teams worked around the clock. They had tried everything they could think of. Magnetic pulses, gravitational counterwaves, even attempting to communicate with the trap's control system. Nothing worked. Dr. Yithka was still studying the old records about the Void Builders. His research station was covered with ancient texts and star maps from civilizations that had died out long ago. "Any progress, Doctor?" "I am learning more about these Void Builders, Captain. But the more I learn, the more worried I become." "Why?" Dr. Yithka pulled up a star map on his screen. It showed this region of space as it was millions of years ago. Look at this. The Void Builders controlled hundreds of star systems. They had technology that could move planets and create artificial suns, yet they died out completely. Veltar studied the map. What killed them? Nobody knows. One day they were there, ruling a vast empire. The next day, they were gone. All that remains are these traps they left behind. Almost like they were trying to keep something out, Veltar said. Or keep something in. Dr. Yithka replied quietly. That thought made Veltar uncomfortable. She pushed it aside and focused on their immediate problem. In the communications center, Zix continued to monitor all frequencies. Every few hours, another message would come in from somewhere in the galaxy. Ships that were too far away to help, governments that sent sympathy but no rescue fleets, scientists who were interested in their situation but couldn't reach them. Captain, Zix called during one of Veltar's visits, I'm picking up some strange signals. What kind of signals? Energy readings from beyond the gravity fields. Something big is moving out there. Maybe several ships. Veltar felt hope again. How long until they reach us? Zix worked at her controls, then shook her head. They're moving very slowly, Captain. At their current speed, they won't get here for another week. A week. They had maybe one more day before the ship broke apart. Veltar returned to the bridge. The main screen still showed the deadly maze of gravity fields around them. But now she noticed something else. The readings from the ship's sensors showed energy patterns moving in the distance. Keth, what can you tell me about those energy signatures Zix detected? The science officer called up the data on his screen. Very large objects, Captain. The computer estimates they're at least 3 times the size of our ship, but their engine signatures don't match any known technology. Could they be more Void Builder machines? Possibly. Or they could be ships from a civilization we haven't met before. Veltar thought about that. In her 20 years of space travel, she had encountered many different races. Some were friendly, others were not, but all of them used technology that made sense to her. Energy weapons, gravity drives, force fields. This felt different. The hours passed slowly. The ship's situation got worse with each passing minute. More hull breaches appeared. Life support systems started failing in some sections. The crew worked to fix what they could, but everyone knew they were fighting a losing battle. In the ship's main dining hall, beings from different worlds sat together and shared stories. Some talked about their home planets. Others spoke of family they would never see again. A few made plans for messages they wanted sent to their loved ones. Veltar visited each group and tried to offer comfort. But what could she say? That help was coming? She didn't believe it herself anymore. Late on the second night, she was in her quarters trying to sleep when the comm system activated. Captain, to the bridge, came Kessa's urgent voice. Veltar ran to the bridge in her sleeping clothes. What is it? The energy signatures, Captain. They've changed course. They're heading directly for us now. Veltar looked at the sensor display. The unknown objects were indeed moving toward them. But they were still moving slowly. Too slowly. Time to intercept? At their current speed. 4 days. 4 days. But the ship would be dead in less than 1. Veltar stared at the screen showing the approaching energy signatures. Someone or something was trying to reach them. But they were going to be too late. No rescue was coming in time. Captain Veltar was in the engine room when the impossible happened. She was working with Orthan to reinforce the failing power systems when every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. Captain, to the bridge immediately, came Kest's voice over the comm system. He sounded confused and excited at the same time. Veltar ran through the corridors as fast as she could. Around her, crew members stopped their work to stare at the flashing emergency lights. The ship's computer kept repeating warnings about sensor malfunctions and impossible readings. When she reached the bridge, she found her crew staring at the main screen in shock. Report, she called as she took her command chair. Kest turned to face her, his blue skin bright with excitement. Captain, something just appeared out of nowhere. Right at the edge of our sensor range. What do you mean, appeared? I mean it wasn't there. And then it was. No energy signature of approach. No hyperspace exit flash. It just materialized. Veltar looked at the main screen. The sensor display showed their ship trapped in the center of the gravity field maze. But now there was something else. A large energy signature sitting just outside the trap. What are we looking at? According to sensors, it's a ship. A very big ship. But, Captain. Kest paused, checking his readings again. The energy patterns don't match anything in our database. It's like the ship is moving through space in ways that shouldn't be possible. Veltar studied the readings. The unknown ship seemed to be ignoring several basic laws of physics. Its position readings kept shifting in ways that hurt her head to think about. Any communication attempts? Zix looked up from her station. Yes, Captain. They're broadcasting on an old emergency frequency. The signal is very weak, and the language. She shook her head. The computer is having trouble translating it. Play it. Static filled the bridge. Through the noise, they heard a voice speaking in short, clipped sentences. The words were harsh and strange, unlike any language Veltar had ever heard. Computer, she called. Translation. The ship's AI took several seconds to respond. Partial translation available. Message content. Unknown vessel. This is Earth Federation ship Indomitable. We have received your distress call. Hold position. Rescue is inbound. The bridge fell silent. Every member of the crew stared at each other. Earth, Doctor, Yithka said from the science station. Computer. Search database for species designation. Human. End quote. 2. End quote. End quote. End quote. 2000. 2000. End quote. 2000. End quote. 2000. 2000. More silence while the computer worked. Then. Species found. Humans. Homeworld. Earth. Classification. Primitive. Technology level. Early spaceflight. Notable characteristics. Aggressive. Unpredictable behavior. No faster than light capability confirmed. Location. Outer Rim. Sector 7742. Veltar felt her stomach drop. That's halfway across the galaxy. How are they here? The computer must be wrong, Kest said. Maybe it's a new species using an old database entry. But Doctor, Yithka was shaking his crystal head. No. The database is current. I updated it myself before we left port. Humans are listed as a primitive species that barely made it to their own moon. Then how is one of their ships here? Veltar asked. On the screen, the human ship's energy signature started moving. It was heading directly toward the gravity trap. They're coming straight at us, Kest reported. Captain, they need to stop. If they enter the gravity fields, they'll be trapped just like us. Zix, open a channel. Warn them about the trap. Channel open? Captain. Earth ship Indomitable. This is Captain Veltar of the research vessel Zenith's Pride. You must not approach our position. We are trapped in an automated defense system. Any ship that comes near will be caught in the same gravity fields. They waited for a response. The static-filled reply came after a long pause. Zenith's Pride. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Indomitable. We understand your situation. We've dealt with Void Builder tech before. Maintain your current position and prepare for extraction. The bridge crew looked at each other in amazement. These humans knew about the Void Builders? Captain Chen, Veltar replied. Our records show that your species lacks faster-than-light technology. How did you reach this location? Another pause, then a sound that might have been laughter. Long story, Captain. Right now, let's focus on getting your people out of there. On the sensor display, the human ship was still approaching the trap. But something was wrong with the readings. The ship seemed to be moving in straight lines through areas of space where the gravity fields should have torn it apart. Kest, are you sure those sensor readings are accurate? The science officer checked his instruments again. Captain, according to our sensors, That human ship is passing through gravity fields that should crush any known material, but it's moving like the fields aren't even there. Dr. Yithka spoke up from his research station. Captain, I've been analyzing their ship's energy signature. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. Their technology doesn't seem to be fighting against the gravity fields. It's like they're using them. Veltar watched the tactical display as the human ship moved deeper into the trap. Every law of physics said it should have been destroyed by now. Instead, it was accelerating. Zix, send a message. Ask them how they're doing what they're doing. Message sent, Captain. The reply came faster this time. Captain Veltar, we don't have time for a full explanation. Just know that humans have experience with impossible gravity situations. Our home system sits near what we call a hell gate, a cluster of gravity wells that taught us to navigate this kind of space. A hell gate? Veltar had never heard that term before. Computer, search for stellar phenomenon. Hellgate. No data found, the computer replied. The human ship was now deep inside the gravity trap, moving directly toward the Times Zenith's Pride asterisk. On the screen, Veltar could see the massive vessel for the first time. It looked nothing like any ship she knew. Where most galactic ships were smooth and elegant, this human ship was rough and angular. It looked like it had been built for war. Captain, Kest called out. I'm detecting massive mechanical systems on that ship, not energy projectors or gravity manipulators. Actual physical machinery. What kind of machinery? Large mechanical arms, magnetic grapples. It looks like they plan to physically grab our ship and pull us out. Veltar couldn't believe what she was hearing. Modern space rescue used sophisticated force fields and gravity projectors. The idea of using mechanical arms to physically move a ship was so primitive, it was almost silly. But as she watched, the human ship positioned itself near the Times Zenith's Pride asterisk. Massive metal arms extended from its hull, reaching toward the trapped alien vessel. Captain Chen, Veltar called over the comm. Are you planning to physically pull us out of this trap? That's the idea, Captain. Sometimes the simple approach works best. Simple approach. Veltar looked around her bridge at the advanced computer systems and sophisticated sensors. Her ship represented the best technology that galactic civilization could build, but it was helpless against the ancient trap. Now a primitive human ship was preparing to rescue them using mechanical arms. The first arm made contact with the Times Zenith's Pride asterisk's hull. Veltar felt the ship shake as the magnetic clamps locked on. All hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers, she announced over the ship's comm system. On the screen, more human ships were appearing out of nowhere. The readings made no sense. It was like an entire fleet was materializing from empty space. Whatever these humans were, they were not the primitive species described in the database. Captain Veltar gripped her chair as the Times Zenith's Pride Times shook under the force of the human ship's mechanical arms. Through the bridge windows, she could see massive metal clamps attached to her ship's hull. They looked crude compared to galactic technology, but they held firm. Captain Chen, she called over the comm. The gravity fields around us are extremely dangerous. Your ship should not be able to function in this area. The human captain's voice came back clear and confident. Copy that, Captain Veltar. We've mapped similar field patterns before. My navigation officer served on a deep space station near the Proxima anomaly. She knows how to read these gravity currents. Veltar looked at Dr. Yithka. Proxima anomaly? The crystal scientist was working frantically at his station. Captain, I'm finding references to several space phenomena near human space that don't exist anywhere else in the galaxy. Gravity wells, space-time distortions, even something called reality storms. How is that possible? I don't know, Captain. But it would explain why humans developed such unusual technology. They had to learn to navigate impossible conditions just to leave their home system. On the main screen, Veltar watched more human ships moving through the gravity trap like fish swimming through water. Each ship was different from the others. Some were long and thin, others were wide and flat. All of them looked rough and practical, like tools rather than works of art. Kest, what are you reading from their ships? The science officer shook his head in confusion. Captain, their technology makes no sense. They're not using energy shields or gravity manipulators. Their ships seem to be physically built to handle extreme conditions. A new voice came over the comm system. It was younger than Captain Chen's voice, with a different accent. This is Navigation Officer Torres on the Indomitable. We're going to start the extraction now. Please secure all loose objects and prepare your crew for some rough movement. Veltar activated the ship's internal comm. All hands, secure for emergency maneuvers. Repeat. Secure for emergency maneuvers. The time Zenith's pride times lurched suddenly as the human ship began to pull. Veltar felt herself pressed into her chair as the ship accelerated in directions that should have been impossible inside the gravity trap. How are they doing this? Kest whispered. Dr. Yithka was studying his instruments with amazement. Captain, the human ship isn't fighting against the gravity fields. They're using them. Somehow, they're turning the trap's own forces against it. Through the bridge windows, Veltar could see the human ship's hull up close. The metal was scarred and dented from what must have been countless similar rescues. Strange symbols were painted on the sides, along with numbers and letters in the human writing system. Captain, Zix called from the communications station. I'm receiving data transmissions from the human ship. They're sending us navigation charts. Put them on screen. The main display changed to show a map of the local star systems. But this wasn't like any map Veltar had seen before. The human charts showed the gravity fields, the safe paths between them, and dozens of other space hazards that weren't in any galactic database. These charts, Dr. Yithka said quietly, they show ancient Void Builder installations throughout this entire region. Installations we never knew existed. The times Zenith's pride times shook again as the human ship changed direction. They were moving through the gravity maze faster than Veltar would have thought possible. The human pilot seemed to know exactly where to go. Captain Chen, Veltar called. How long have your people been operating in this area? About 8 months, came the reply. We started getting automated distress signals from ships caught in these traps. Took us a while to figure out how to navigate the field safely. But once we did, we set up regular patrol routes. These humans had been quietly rescuing ships for months, and the galactic governments didn't even know they existed out here. How many ships have you rescued? You're number 43. Most of them were cargo haulers or small research vessels. A few military ships. One passenger liner with 2,000 people on board. 43 ships. Veltar thought about all the distress calls that had gone unanswered in this region. Ships that had disappeared without a trace. The galaxy had assumed they were lost forever, but the humans had been saving them. A new alarm sounded on the bridge. Kessis looked up from his sensors with excitement. Captain, we're moving out of the gravity trap. The fields are weakening around us. On the screen, Veltar could see the red lines that marked the deadly gravity fields falling away behind them. The human ship was pulling them to safety, with nothing more than mechanical arms and expert navigation. This is impossible. Orthan's voice came over the comm from the engine room. According to every law of physics I know, we should still be trapped. Captain Chen's voice answered him. Engineer Orthan, right? We've got your ship's technical specifications, crystalline power systems, Altarian navigation computers, Vrothan shield generators, beautiful technology, but it's all designed to work in normal space. And your technology? Built to work in impossible space. When your home system sits next to a gravity anomaly that can tear apart reality, you learn to build things differently. The shaking stopped. The time Zenith's pride times was floating free in normal space, safely away from the ancient trap. Through the bridge windows, Veltar could see the human rescue fleet spreading out around them. She counted at least 12 ships, all different designs, all marked with the scars of dangerous work. Captain Veltar, came Captain Chen's voice. We're releasing the clamps now. Your ship is free and clear. Do you need medical assistance or technical support? Veltar looked around her bridge. Her crew was staring at the screens in amazement. They were alive. They were safe, and they had been rescued by a species that wasn't supposed to be capable of interstellar travel. Captain Chen, we owe you our lives. 847 beings on this ship. Just doing our job, Captain. We'll escort you to the edge of the danger zone. There are 17 more ancient traps between here and galactic trade routes. We've mapped safe paths through all of them. 17 more traps. How many ships had been lost over the years because no one knew safe passage routes existed? Dr. Yithka spoke up from his station. Captain, I'm detecting something interesting about their ship formations. They're not just escorting us. They're actively scanning space ahead of us for more traps. Veltar opened a channel to the human ship. Captain Chen, how extensive is your knowledge of these ancient defense systems? Pretty extensive. We've been mapping Void Builder tech throughout this entire star cluster. Turns out your impossible ancient weapons aren't so impossible once you understand how they work. And you're sharing this information? Of course, knowledge like this should be available to everyone. We'll transmit our complete navigation database to your ship's computer, free of charge. Free of charge. In the galactic economy, navigation data for dangerous space was worth fortunes. Governments paid huge amounts for safe passage routes through hazardous regions, but these humans were giving it away. Why? Veltar asked. There was a pause before Captain Chen answered. Because people shouldn't die from problems that have solutions. We figured out how to navigate this space safely. Now, everyone can. Veltar sat back in her command chair and watched the human ships moving around them. Rough, practical vessels crewed by beings from a supposedly primitive world. Ships that had just accomplished what the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy had declared impossible, and they acted like it was routine. 3 hours later, Captain Veltar stood in the main conference room of the human ship Times, Indomitable Asterisk. The room was unlike anything she had ever seen aboard a galactic vessel. The walls were covered with hand-drawn star charts, physical books, and what looked like actual paper documents. It felt more like a library than a starship bridge. Captain Sarah Chen sat across from her at a simple metal table. She was a small human, with graying hair and tired eyes. She looked like someone who had spent years solving other people's problems. Your ship's medical bay is impressive, Chen said, offering Veltar a cup of something that smelled like heated plant matter. My doctor says your crew is in good health. Considering what you've been through, Veltar accepted the cup but didn't drink. She was still trying to understand how any of this was possible. Captain Chen, I have to ask, how did your people develop the ability to navigate Void Builder technology? Our greatest scientists have been studying it for decades, without success. Chen smiled and sipped her own drink. We didn't develop it, Captain. We lived with it. The space around Earth is unusual. We had to figure out how to navigate impossible conditions just to survive as a spacefaring species. But according to our records, humans barely achieved faster than light travel. Your records are both right and wrong. We don't have FTL technology the way the rest of the galaxy does. We can't just point at a star and jump there in a few hours. Chen stood up and walked to one of the wall charts. It showed human space as a complex web of routes through dangerous territory. We learned to travel by following paths through gravity, anomalies, and space-time distortions. It takes us weeks or months to go places that other species reach in days, but we can go places that other species can't reach at all. Veltar studied the chart. Human trade routes twisted through regions of space that were marked as impassable on galactic maps. How long have your people been traveling like this? About 50 years. When we first left Earth's system, we discovered that normal hyperspace technology doesn't work in our local space. Too many gravity anomalies. So we had to develop different methods. And during that time, you've been mapping ancient defense systems? Among other things, we've found the ruins of dozens of extinct civilizations, ancient weapons, abandoned space stations, automated defense networks, most of it still functional after millions of years. Chen pointed to different areas on the chart. Each one was marked with symbols that Veltar didn't recognize. We've learned to read the patterns. Void Builder technology follows certain rules. Once you understand those rules, you can predict where the traps will be and how to avoid them. A younger human entered the room carrying a thick folder of documents. Chen introduced her as Lieutenant Torres, the navigation officer who had guided them through the gravity maze. Lieutenant Torres has been working on a complete survey of void builder installations in this star cluster, Chen explained. We found evidence of a massive network spanning hundreds of light years. Torres opened the folder and spread papers across the table. They were covered with diagrams, mathematical formulas, and star charts marked in multiple colors. Captain Veltar, Torres said, we think the void builders weren't just defending individual star systems. They were trying to seal off entire regions of space. Seal them off from what? That's the big question. We've found references in some of the ruins to something called the Dark Current. But we don't know what it means. Veltar thought about Dr. Yithka's research into the void builders. An entire galactic empire that had vanished without explanation, leaving behind only traps and warnings. Have you shared this information with galactic authorities? Chen and Torres exchanged a look. We've tried, Chen said. Most governments aren't interested in what a primitive species has to say about ancient technology. A few scientific organizations have asked for our data, but they don't take it seriously. Why not? Because we can't explain how we know what we know. Our methods don't make sense to people who think in terms of conventional technology. We've learned to read space the way sailors learn to read the ocean. It's not something you can easily put into a scientific report. Torres pulled out another chart, this one showing the rescue operation that had just saved the Times Zenith's Pride asterisk. The route through the gravity maze looked simple when drawn on paper, but Veltar knew that any other ship would have been destroyed attempting to follow it. How do you train people to navigate like this? Experience, Torres said. Lots of experience in impossible conditions. Most of our navigation officers started as miners, working in the asteroid fields around Earth. Space near our homeworld is so dangerous that you either learn to read the gravity currents or you don't survive. Chen added, we've been running rescue operations in this region for 8 months now. Every ship we save teaches us something new about void builder technology. We're building a database of safe routes through ancient defense networks. And you're giving this information away for free. Why wouldn't we? Knowledge saves lives. Veltar set down her cup and looked at the charts covering the table. Detailed surveys of ancient ruins, navigation routes through impossible space, and technical data that would be worth billions of credits on the galactic market. The humans were offering all of it freely. Captain Chen, do you realize what this information is worth? In terms of money? Probably a lot. In terms of saving lives? It's priceless. A soft chime sounded, and Chen touched a device on her wrist. Chen here. Captain, this is Commander Park on the Times Persistence asterisk. We've got another distress signal. Cargo ship caught in the void builder maze near Sector 7. How many people aboard? Crew of 26. Mixed species cargo hauler. Chen sighed and stood up. We're on our way. Plot a course through the safe channel we mapped last month. She turned to Veltar. Duty calls, Captain. Will you be able to make it safely back to galactic space? Yes, thanks to the navigation data you gave us. But Captain Chen, my government needs to know about what you're doing out here. This changes everything. Does it? We're just doing what needs to be done. You're saving lives that the rest of the galaxy had given up for lost. You're solving problems that our greatest minds couldn't figure out. And you're doing it with technology that shouldn't work. Chen smiled. Maybe that's the point, Captain. Sometimes the impossible just means nobody's tried the right approach yet. An hour later, Veltar was back on the bridge of the Times Zenith's Pride asterisk, watching the human rescue fleet prepare to leave for their next mission. The ships moved with practiced efficiency, forming up into a formation designed to navigate dangerous space. Captain, Dr. Yithka said from his research station, I've been analyzing the navigation data the humans provided. It contains information about ancient sites that we never knew existed. This could revolutionize our understanding of galactic history. Veltar nodded, but she was thinking about more than history. She was thinking about the present and the future. Somewhere in the galaxy, another ship was trapped and calling for help. And the humans were going to answer that call. just like they had answered the Times, Zenith's Pride asterisks. Zix, open a channel to Galactic Command. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Veltar of the research vessel, Times Zenith's Pride asterisk. Priority message for the Galactic Council. We have made contact with a human rescue fleet operating in the ancient defense zone. They have technology and knowledge that could save countless lives. I strongly recommend immediate diplomatic contact with the Earth Federation. She paused, watching the human ships disappear into the dangerous space ahead. Also recommend updating the database entry for the human species. They are not primitive. They are not insignificant. They are the reason 847 beings are alive today. As the Times Zenith's Pride Times began its journey home, Veltar wondered how many other impossible problems humans had already solved while the rest of the galaxy wasn't paying attention. How many ships they had saved. How many lives they had preserved. The galaxy was about to discover that rescue was always coming, even when it seemed impossible. You just had to know where to look for it.